Welcome to Fast Recaps. Today we're gonna go through a 2018 adventure thriller movie called Nightingale. The opening scene of the movie shows Irish convicts who are a couple, Aidan and Claire, waking up in their home alongside their baby. Claire and her husband both go to their respective posts to fulfill their daily tasks at the military outpost where Claire works. A delicious meal is being prepared for a visiting officer, Captain Godwin. That night, Claire is called upon by the officer in charge, Lieutenant Hawkins, to sing a song for their visitor. Claire stands in front of the soldiers and sings beautifully, hence earning her nickname Nightingale later. That night, Claire visits Hawkins in his chambers and he starts making advances towards Claire. Claire rebuffs him and demands the letter of recommendation that will set herself, Aidan, and their baby free. Hawkins refuses and says Claire must do his bidding before anything else. Claire tries to remind him that the letter is due 3 months already. Hawkins gets flared up and forces himself on Claire. After Hawkins is done with his act, Claire leaves in tears. She goes to her husband's workstation and tells him it's time to go home. Upon getting home, Aidan notices that something is wrong with his wife. He realizes that Hawkins hurt Claire and this gets him mad. Aidan plans to challenge Hawkins in the following morning for the recommendation letter, but Claire tries to reason with him. Aidan then decides that he will approach Hawkins in a civil manner and see if he will be able to reason with him. The next morning, Aidan has a chat with Hawkins, but Hawkins refuses his request. That night, Hawkins is second in command. Sergeant Ruse and an Ensign Jago are having fun in a pub when Aidan challenges the trio. Aidan gets into a brawl with them and Captain Godwin witnesses the event. After the departure of Aidan, Captain Godwin calls Hawkins to his office. He scolds Hawkins and says he will no longer recommend him for the post of captaincy because he lacks the manners for it. This gets Hawkins really mad and says he has sacrificed a lot and deserves the captaincy post. Hawkins then decides that he'll have to travel to Launceston himself to get the desired post. Later that night, Aidan and his family are preparing to run away, but Hawkins, accompanied by his boys, arrives. Hawkins says Aidan has cost him a very important role. Hawkins has Jago and Ruse hold Aidan down while he forcefully makes out with Claire. Just then, Aidan tries to fight back, but Hawkins shoots him dead. Hawkins tells Ruse to have a good time with Claire too. While doing so, Claire's baby is busy crying and Hawkins tells Jago to shut the baby up. Desperate to keep the baby quiet, Jago throws the baby against the wall, resulting in the baby's death. Before leaving, Hawkins tells Jago to finish things up and Jago hits Claire in the head with the butt of his rifle and leaves her to die. The next morning, Claire wakes up and takes her dead baby to an officer to report the crime. But when she sees that the man is of no help, she decides to do things her own way. She learns that Hawkins and his boys have departed to Launceston. She asks Aidan's friend, but he refuses instead. He says Claire should have a guide because the roads to Launceston are dangerous. Claire seeks the help of an Aboriginal man, Billy, to help her navigate the path to Launceston. She tells Billy that she's trying to meet up with her husband and she needs to be fast about it. Billy informs Claire that Hawkins came this morning to ask for a guide and his uncle Charlie followed them. Up next, Hawkins has recruited 2 other convicts to help them in carrying their belongings through the woods. As Claire and Billy travel through the woods, Claire shows a high level of hatred towards Billy because she believes him to be none different than the people who took her family away. That night, Jago seems remorseful about what they did, but Hawkins snaps him out of it. The next morning, Billy tells Claire that if they are to catch up with Hawkins, they need to take a bushy route, and Claire agrees. Claire looks around but doesn't find Billy. She soon realizes that some white men are in front. Claire manages to escape from them and soon rendezvous with Billy in front. Soon afterward, Ruse kidnaps an Aboriginal woman, Luana, and plans to use her as their personal pleasure machine. Hawkins is initially hesitant but later agrees to it. Billy and Claire soon end up at a river in front of them. Billy says the current is too high, but Claire doesn't listen and enters the water with her horse. She starts to drown, but Billy manages to save her and the horse in time. To sustain themselves, Billy and Claire have to steal from a nearby hut. The duo manages to escape with their lives when the owner returns. That night, Billy informs Claire that his family was terminated by the white men. He says only his female relatives are living up north. Billy plans to reunite with them later on. Claire also tells Billy that life has not been kind to her because her family was terminated when she was young. She always had to fend for herself. Billy then lets it out that his real name is Mangana, which translates to a black bird in his language. During the conversation, Clare informs Billy that she is Irish and not English. Now at Hawkins' side, Hawkins has taken a liking to one of the convicts, a kid named Eddie. While Hawkins and Ruse are busy having their way with Luana, Eddie asks if they're hurting her, but Hawkins says no. The next morning, Luana's people ambush Hawkins in a rescue attempt. They terminate one of the convicts and Jago gets wounded in the encounter. However, Hawkins shoots Luana and escapes with his companions, leaving only Jago behind. Jago manages to escape into the bush. Later, Clare and Billy run into Jago and Billy believes Jago is her husband. However, when he witnesses how brutally Clare terminates Jago, Billy decides to leave. Clare then comes clean to Billy. She says Jago and his friends terminated her husband and her baby. Out of sympathy, Billy says he will continue to help Clare. Soon afterward, Charlie tells Hawkins that they need to go up the hill because Luana's people will be chasing them. He says the hill is the fastest way to get to Launceston. Clare and Billy soon find the spot where Luana's people had an encounter with Hawkins. Billy asks if Clare is still ready to follow Hawkins and she says yes. Billy and Clare find the path where Charlie led Hawkins and Billy is surprised that Charlie decided to go up the hill. Later that night, Billy tells Clare that Charlie is the one that took him in when his family got killed and that is the reason he is calling Charlie his uncle. During the night, Clare starts having nightmares about the horrible way she terminated Jago. The next morning, Clare looks weak and pale, which forces Billy to perform a local ceremony on her so she can have some strength. Billy also enters the bush to hunt so they can cook something and eat. Shortly afterward, Charlie leads Hawkins to the top of the hill and says he is leaving them there because of what they did to Luana. Hawkins tries to negotiate with him, but Ruse shoots him. Hawkins gets angry and beats Ruse up. He says the only one who can lead them out there is Charlie and Ruse has foolishly terminated him. Hawkins then tells Ruse that he is their new guide and that if he fails to get them to Launceston, he will terminate him. The next day, Billy finds Charlie's body and he breaks down in tears. Meanwhile, Hawkins almost terminates Ruse, but Eddie convinces him not to do so. Billy then performs a burial ceremony for Charlie and informs Clare that he is now seeking vengeance too. The duo approaches the group of 4 men and Clare takes aim at Hawkins. However, she freezes up and allows Hawkins to graze her with a musket shot. This puts Billy and Clare in a bad spot and Billy says they have to split up. Hawkins catches Billy and asks him where Clare is. To protect Clare, Billy says Clare has run back home because she was scared. Hawkins then forces Billy to be their new guide so he can lead them to Launceston. That night, Clare suffers from high emotional pain which causes her to have hallucinations about her dead husband, baby, and Jago. The next morning, Billy successfully leads Hawkins to the road that enters Launceston. Hawkins then instructs Eddie to shoot Billy, but he finds it difficult. Eddie freezes up and Billy manages to escape into the woods. Hawkins gets angry at Eddie for not being able to do what he was told. Eddie starts crying and begging for another chance, but Hawkins shoots him dead. Clare starts wandering in the woods and soon finds a way that leads into Launceston. She sees a wagon passing by and asks for help. The driver initially refuses, but the occupant of the wagon pays the driver so Clare can sit in the back. Soon afterward, Clare sees Billy running out of the woods and quickly reunites with him. The duo start looking for food and they enter a hut where they find the occupants dead. Billy and Clare take what they need and quietly leave. As the duo walk on the road, they come across a group of men holding some Aboriginal man captive. One of the Aboriginal men informed Billy that he is the last of his people. Just then, one of the men starts speaking rudely to their captors about how they treat them. To show dominance, the captors shoot the Aboriginal man and proceed to take their heads as trophies. Later on, Billy and Clare run into a couple who appear to be compassionate. The couple invite them into their house for dinner. While eating dinner, Billy cries bitterly over the loss of his people and home. The next day, Billy and Clare visit a store. While Clare is inside the store, Billy sees a newly promoted Hawkins having a conversation with his superior. Upon leaving the store, Clare also sees Hawkins. Hawkins tells Clare to leave or else he will have her arrested. However, Clare confronts Hawkins about his war crimes in the presence of his fellow officers while Billy watches in hiding. Afterward, the duo escapes Launceston. Later that night, Billy paints his body and prepares to go after Hawkins. Clare begs him to reconsider, but he refuses. Clare follows Billy to the hostel where Hawkins and Ruse are lodged. Billy enters Hawkins' room and terminates him. Just then, Ruse shoots and mortally wounds Billy, but he manages to get on his feet and terminate Ruse also. Billy and Claire then flee and soon arrive at a beach where Billy sings and declares himself a free man. On the other hand, Claire sings a local folk song as the duo watch the sun rise together. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did.